Hollow Knight Silksong came out a little bit ago. It was kind of like a shadow drop out of nowhere, and it's a fun game. A lot of people like playing it, I like playing it, and people call it the indie darling. It was a meme for a long time, trying to figure out whether it exists or not, and now it's here, and a lot of people appreciate this indie game. However, there is a problem, apparently. There was a conniption on social media, especially from devs, who had a little bit of a problem with Silksong, and not just the difficulty, no, not just the difficulty, but something else entirely. It was $20. I still don't see how that's a problem. So yes, Hollow Knight Silksong is $20, and apparently that was a problem for a lot of developers on social media, saying that Hollow Knight, the game that is an indie darling, that has taken so many years to make, the one that spreads memes on whether or not it exists or not, is $20, and that's a problem. I'm kind of baffled at the fact that a lot of these developers who were and are indie talking about the fact that Silksong being $20 is an issue. And we're talking about people who are looking at the price of their games and probably judging it to be $30, $40, maybe even $50. And we're still talking about indie games here. Whether or not you're AAA, AA, or indie, let me just tell you this. It is up to you to figure out the price of your game. But perhaps it's because of the climate, perhaps they have to figure out what to charge the players, since we're talking about the price of a video game, and AAA has already just sat there with $70 after so many games have been priced at $60 for so long. The breakage out of the $60 when it comes to AAA, well, that was a long time coming, and I wasn't surprised when Nintendo was doing it, when Sony was doing it, if Microsoft does it. I'm not really too sure. I don't even know if they sell any games anymore. But the point here is, if we're going to make Nintendo an example in all this, this was bound to happen. When they came out with Mario Kart World, they made that $80. If you got that with the bundle of your Switch 2, which I did, it was basically $50. But then when they come out with other games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, that's $70, and their DLC is $20. Their DLC, not really worth it. Sorry. Then they came out with Pokemon ZA, and it's kind of funny because Pokemon ZA was, I believe, $70 just as well, but their DLC was $30. Basically an added chapter, an added in-game to that of ZA, even though I don't think it's really worth $70, especially the quality of the game doesn't feel like $70. It is what it is with Nintendo, and they'll do whatever they want. The same can be said for indie developers. They can do whatever they want, they can set whatever price that they want. I've seen it all over the place. I've seen it as low as $5 to as high as $100. I've seen it before. Now, Silksong being $20, you gotta think about why? What does it mean that it's $20? Why is it $20? Where did they come up with the finances, the revenue, that they can make it $20? You gotta think about that business. You gotta think about that stuff. So why is Silksong $20? Well, this is just a guess, but you have 3 developers who made a lot of money when it came to Hollow Knight, the first Hollow Knight, and you could, well, think about the assets they have to recreate. A lot of the stuff they've already done before with the first Hollow Knight, so they probably don't have to spend as much to make the next game. Well, of course, you got voice acting and music and the time that you have to put in. I mean, they're spending money on themselves just to live, and maybe they have to have some sort of room. Maybe they're still doing the same setup. They probably don't have to change too much. I mean, Hollow Knight Silksong is basically kind of like a pseudo upgrade, if not an upgrade to that of Hollow Knight. But it's still just a 2D game. The judgment call of making a price on whatever product you want is up to you. But being upset that a famous title making their game cheap should not be something to look down upon or say, hey, you can't do that. There's been a bunch of people on social media, a bunch of developers who are saying that Hollow Knight Silksong should be $40 or $50, but mostly $40. They're saying that $40 was the correct price because of just the series themselves. The name Hollow Knight deserves it for being $40. Again, it's not up to anybody else but the developers themselves, and they thought $20 was just as fine. And if you think about it real well, like if you think deeply on that, why did they make it $20? It's because it's cheap enough for a lot of people to get into, and they know the climate of everybody playing video games nowadays. Video games are becoming very expensive. You know this, I know this, everybody knows this. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, video games are becoming more and more expensive. Honestly, I think what they're doing over there, I believe they're the Cherry Games or something like that. I do apologize for getting their name wrong, but I believe these developers are looking at this and saying, how about we throw the players a bone? Make it cheap enough so that they are able to play our game that they have been waiting for like years. I mean, what was it, like 7? I don't remember. AAA is a whole other beast, so I can't really count them, really. They're nothing like indie. They spend so much money on marketing, on development, on people. Hundreds and hundreds of people who are trying to make a game within 3 to 5 years. Well, at least I want to believe it's just 3 to 5 years. Some things just don't make any sense, like EA and their games, which they make almost like every year. But I heard that they're changing that and they're not trying to do a yearly thing again. I don't know where I heard that. I believe they're still doing the yearly thing again. It's just weird that they need to spend as much money and really sell the game at $70 to $60 anyway. We all know that they reuse their assets. The point is that AAA and indie are very different. AAA spends too much money on things that they could probably do in kind of shrinkage if they had a little bit of order, if they were directed the right way. But no, they spend so much money on employees, on voice actors, on music, on marketing. A lot is on marketing. Trust me, there is a lot of money when it comes to marketing. And well, it doesn't always work out so well for the AAA industry, and a lot of times when the game does come out, well, we've heard this story before, but the game isn't usually too functional. They're trying to have the highest grade graphics, but they're not optimizing the game to be able to withstand all that graphics. Unreal Engine can work so well, but the developers who are using them need to understand that program. They need to understand what they're working with in order to optimize the game. It's been said plenty of times before. Yes, Unreal Engine is a very advanced, if not the highest tier graphic engine that you can use for a video game, but if you're not working with that, if you're not learning how to use that, your game is going to come out subpar. It's going to have glitches. It's going to come out very dysfunctional. Let's just say. I'm being nice here. I could have said a lot worse. Meanwhile, indies don't have to really worry about all that. They don't have to spend so much money on graphics when they're looking at the graphics that they make on their own. They work with what they got. They don't have to spend too much money, if any money, if they know how to handle their resources. They usually don't have over like 10 or 20 people on a team. If not, more than 1 or 3, because there are a lot of individual developers who make games by themselves and they work with what they got, so they don't have to spend as much money. The reason why a lot of indie games don't breach over the $50 or $60 line is because it didn't take that much money in order to get to the point where they finished the game. The game could take, I don't know, 5 hours to beat, or no time at all, or maybe it's a long time because it's an RPG. You just gotta think about what is going on when it comes down to games, what they put into, the resources, and I guess what goes around them. I don't know the climate when it comes to figuring out the price of a game. I just know that when it comes to Hollow Knight Silksong, I am thankful that it's $20.